Okay, hi guys, Anna Kojak here, your mental performance coach for all things gymnastics. Today I am talking about failure. So failure, we all hate it, but I'm going to tell you today why you need to learn to embrace it. First of all, what is failure? Failure is just the absence of success. But one of the best things about failure is that failure means something different to everyone. So if you went to a meet and you got below a 9.0 on all of your events, that might be failure to you. But for another gymnast, if she went to a meet and got below a 9.0, but her score was above an 8.5 on every event, that might be success to her. Maybe she never gets above 8.0s on her events. So failure is really specific to the person. And why I say this is because failure is so specific, your definition of failure, you can modify that. You can change that. It's not like this one definition. It's different for every person. So what you decide is failure, you can actually find success in that. You don't have to define it as failure. You can change the way you define it. The other thing is, I touched on this in my reel yesterday, is that there are two ways to fail. You can fail by putting yourself out there, by having courage, by trying and then just failing, not, attaining whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. But, what the best part about that is, even though at the end of the day, you might end up embarrassed because you tried something and you fell flat on your face, or you went to a meet and you scored really low, or everyone saw you fall and beam 3 times in one meet. Okay, you might end up embarrassed. But if you can learn to live with that embarrassment, if you can learn to accept that discomfort of embarrassment and be okay with it, then you are unstoppable. Then you're invincible, because what happens is you won't be afraid to do anything. Because if you fail, all right, you get embarrassed, but hey, I can handle embarrassment. It's not such a big deal. I can get through it. So that's one way to fail. That's failing with courage. The other way to fail is when you avoid something completely, right? So you're such a perfectionist, or you're so worried that you are going to be embarrassed, or you're not going to do what you're trying to do and it's not going to be perfect, that you just avoid it altogether. Well, that's failure too, because you are not putting yourself out there, and so you are never ever going to get better and succeed and just become a better gymnast, because you're always going to play it small. You're going to play it safe. So that is actually a form of failure. Okay, so now I want to tell you why you should embrace failure, because I know you don't want to. I know it's hard. Trust me, I am like the person who absolutely hates to fail. I am like classic perfectionist here. But here's why you need to embrace it. Failure gives you information. Failure provides data. So every single time you fail, you learn more information, and that information can help you to succeed in the future. For example, if you go to a meet and you fell on all of your events, or you just did really poorly, what does that tell you? What kind of information can you gather from that? You can look back and say, okay, was I prepared? Did I get enough sleep the night before? Did I fuel myself? Did I have enough snacks, or did I eat a protein-rich breakfast that was, helped me that day? Was I really nervous? Was I focusing on, a meet I had last week? So was I focused in the past and not on the present? Was I, focused on having to get a skill? Was there a lot of pressure on me? Was my coach yelling? Were my teammates nervous? What happened? That is all information that you can use to do better next time. So if you can sort of remove the emotion from the failure and look at it from this objective outside point of view and just say, okay, well, what went wrong? Let's fix it. Let's change what went wrong so that next time I can succeed. Then failure is amazing, because it gives you those data points along the way. Babe Ruth, old baseball player, for a decade, that's 10 years, you guys, not just a season, a decade, he led the league in number of strikeouts. So he swung and he swung and he swung, and he missed and he missed and he missed for 10 years. 10 years. Now, he's long gone, but even now he holds like the record. I think he's the 3rd highest home run record for home runs, So he figured it out. And when someone asked him about all those strikeouts, he said, every strike brought me closer to my next home run. And I know, we're in gymnastics, we're not in baseball, but how cool is that? Like, he looked at every strike as the road to success. Every strike is going to get me closer to the next win, the next home run. You can look at that in gymnastics too. Every fall is going to get you closer to your next success on that event. Every time, you go out and try a skill, let's say your kip, you're trying to learn your kip and you're stuck on it, or your giants, or your Chenko, or whatever it is that you're working on. Every time you fall, every time you fail at it, that's getting you closer to the success, because eventually you will get it. You are not a failure unless you stop trying. And if you keep trying, you will get it. It will come. You will get it. That is just law. You will get there. You just can't stop. You can't let the failure stop you in your track, and then you'll never succeed because you'll stop too soon. So failure basically is information, it's data, and that's good. The more data you can collect, the more successful you can be. I told another story recently about Simone Biles. She placed 14th. I think this was in 2011. It was at, don't quote me on the date, but at the women's junior national team. So she placed 14th, and they took 13 gymnasts. She placed 14th, so she did not make the junior national team that year. And she went home. Of course, she was upset, and she went back to the gym, talked to her coach, and they went through and they dissected her routines, and they looked at the videos, and they used that as information. And they noticed that, everyone else had, they were throwing harder skills, and that she needed to upgrade her skills if she wanted to be competitive. And that's what she did. She went and she worked on that. And we know how her story hopefully her story's not over yet, but so far how it's gone. She went and, she's the greatest of all time in gymnastics. And so she looked at that failure, instead of as defeat, she looked at it as information. She gathered the information she could from it. The other thing about failure, the other reason you need to embrace it, is because often what we perceive as failure isn't really failure. It's like we put this expectation on it, and if we don't hit that expectation, it's failure. But at the end of the day, maybe we didn't achieve something that we tried to achieve, but our brain has this way of focusing on the failure and catastrophizing it. So like thinking like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. I didn't do this, or I fell, or I didn't make it. And your brain has this, capacity to go right to the point of like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. My life is over. Like, how am I going to live? Like, I fell, And when you take a step back and you look at it, you can realize like, okay, I fell on beam at a meet. My world is not over. I still go back to gym on Monday. Okay, so maybe I scored a little low. Like, I'm alive. My world is not over. Like, this is not a big deal. Like, maybe I'm making it, my brain is making it this bigger deal than it really is. Really, what you perceive as failure is really, like I said, it's just information points along the way. It's not failure. And again, you've only failed when you've stopped trying. You just stop going. That's when you've hit failure. Not when you keep going. Not when you keep failing and you keep going, because again, that's information on your way to success. You will get there. You just have to stick with it. One of my favorite quotes about failure is, failure is a bruise, not a tattoo. So what that means is it's not permanent. It's not permanent. It's a bruise. It'll heal and you'll move on. It's not a tattoo. It's not stuck on you forever. And what happens is a lot of times, especially for us perfectionists, is that we have a failure, and then we dwell on that failure and we can't move forward. We just keep getting stuck in the past. Elite gymnasts and successful people in this world, what they do instead of dwelling on those past mistakes is they dwell on their future. They look towards their future. They look towards where they're going, and they kind of erase what happened in the past, and they just keep looking forward. And so whatever happened yesterday is yesterday's news. You have to be in the present, and you can look towards that future of where you want to go. But when you keep living in those failures and those mistakes, you're stuck. You're stuck. And then you relive that, and then you'll always be a failure because you're always thinking about the times you failed and never looking towards, hey, this is a stepping stone towards success in my future. Okay, so I hope those tips helped. Let me know below in the comments if, I actually want to know, what is one of your greatest failures, and, what happened as a result of it? Are you still here? What happened? Did everything turn out well? What happened? So let me know about your failure. I want to hear all about it. And just remember, you're not a failure unless you stop trying.